Well, welcome aboard. This is Jim Blank, U.S. Navy veteran. Joining me, the man who knows how to beat the air in submission, Marine Corps pilot, helicopter pilot, and all-around great guy, Chuck Wright. The right way to do things, right?
There we go, if that's what you say.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. We have an exceptional program today because we've got an exceptional guest. Why don't you introduce our guest there, Chuck?
Hey, I have known David Hamilton for some time, and if you're not familiar with David Hamilton, and he is a face well known in veteran circles, but he runs the America Future Series, and we're going to let him talk about it. But it is an excellent program. We'll let him talk about it in just a second. Excellent program. They bring in some outstanding guests. Super excited to get an opportunity to meet former Commandant of the Marine Corps, former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dunford, who is going to be the key guy there. I'm not 100% certain what his title is going to be for this, and I don't want to steal a lot of that from David, but and have we got David? All right, David.
Hey, David, welcome aboard, buddy.
Hey, and before we start, a little something for Jim here. Where are you and why are you there right now?
Yay! Go Longhorns!
Hook 'em horns, baby. Jim is a Texas grad, so you're going to have to learn how to get those keep those horns up high. David, tell us about this year's America Future Series, and then we'll go from this year's event on the 13th of April, and we'll go get into the history of the American Future Series in our next segment.
And when he retired as a lieutenant colonel, his mission wasn't done. He helped put down a coup in Yemen. He helped lead the evacuation of Saigon. He worked with JFK to help him get elected. So he's sort of the epitome of someone who served and they continue to serve.
Excellent stuff.
He was a great man. I enjoyed meeting him at a number of events. He was there, I think, when I was on the board of governors of the Greater Dallas Military Federation.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you and I met there. I worked with the Greater Dallas Military Ball. So we fought a losing battle for a little over 20 years to have him receive the Medal of Honor. A number of his exploits, things that he did, were left out of the reports. He blew up a couple of Panzers by hand, which typically gets you the Medal of Honor. He and his troops killed 100 Germans, he and four others, and captured another 100 and freed a village, just the 5 of them. And that was left out of the report. So we thought that should be considered, and we petitioned for that. And so we part of the reasons for this program was to just make sure people didn't forget the legacy of Maggie Magellas.
It's
What
one of
a
the
man.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say it's one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is remembering the stories, particularly those that are not well told. And it's fitting yesterday was Medal of Honor Day. It would have been great if and it's not over. They still continue to review findings, continue to award the Medal of Honor, but sadly we weren't able to hang one on Maggie's neck, and that would have been fitting.
That would have been great. And, the Medal of Honor, the Tribute to Valor Foundation, which we work with, really embraced Maggie and felt of them as a brother. He was invited to all their events and vice versa. And, Gary Luttrell, the Medal of Honor recipient, he will be there with us on 4/13 for the Medal of Honor. And, for the Magellas Award. And we're honoring General Dunford.
Yes.
With Magellas Award on that time.
Okay, that's what it was, and I'm sorry, I forgot exactly how General Dunford was attached to this year. Absolutely fabulous officer, great Marine. I had to throw that in. Of course I had to throw that in.
You got to.
We have
You
fun with
Marine.
that.
Yeah, you couldn't call yourself a Marine if you didn't, man.
Absolutely. So, talk a little bit about the night, what's going to go on, where this is, certainly throwing a blurb about where. I'm going to assume you still have a few tickets left, although I don't think there are many.
No, we have one premium table and about 10 standard tables.
Wow.
We'll have about 400 people there. It's at the Frontiers of Flight Museum on 4/13, which is a Wednesday evening. There's a reception, a general reception, a VIP reception starts at 5:30, goes to 6:30. Then we have the dinner with remarks and all of that, and the presentation. It is a fundraiser for Semper Fi for General Dunford's charity. He chairs that and the Americas Fund, no relation to us. And a number of those service members will be there. General Petraeus is the host, and he is a past recipient of the award. He has hosted this a couple of times. He helped us present this to General Votel 2 years ago, which was the last time we had an in-person event because of COVID. And that was on March 5th. Maggie passed on April 6th, and March 11th would have been his 105th birthday. So it's somewhat fitting that around that time we're able to honor his memory and honor the service of General Dunford and all these other great Americans.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Our organization has already bought a table. We will be there in numbers. We'll continue to promote getting the last of the tickets sold. Part of why we're on the show, but part of it is also to increase the awareness of the event. I've got to tell a quick story. The last airplane I ever landed is hanging from the roof of the Frontiers of Flight Museum.
How about that?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
Jen Colmer's, that red, white, and blue FINA. It's called a PITS, P-I-T-T-S. It's a stunt designed to be a stunt plane.
It is.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I landed at what is now just a whole bunch of housing in an elementary school in Frisco, but they had built a runway up there with the intent of having luxury homes where people could fly in and park their airplane in their own hangar.
Was that
Yeah.
is that what evolved into Aero Country?
No, as a matter of fact, this is actually south of Aero Country. Now this is high end. Aero Country is this is designed to be high end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
go back.
we got to get your picture in front of that plane then.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go back, David, and talk about if you wanted to go to this, which would be a tremendous event to go to, where do you go to sign up?
So AF Series is the easiest website. It's the letter A, the letter F, and then just the word series, afseries.com. And you can navigate to the event and register pretty easily. And for your listeners, there's a special code, AFS BETS, all caps, AFS BETS, takes 25% off. Or if you're a Marine, you probably want to type in AFS Marines.
I love it.
Okay, now they're going to charge the Marines twice, right? Because I know how
Yeah,
they eat.
Yeah, well, they cause more trouble and they eat more.
Boy, that's for sure. Hey, I think this is
Guilty.
really, really great. I think it's so important that you're doing this. Is General Dunford going to be speaking, or do you have somebody else that's going to speak at this event?
No, he'll be there. He'll be there speaking. He'll receive the award, and there'll be a little fireside chat between General Petraeus and General Dunford after the award is received. The Tribute of Honor Foundation will present this portrait. It'll be signed by all the past Magellas recipients. Patrick Walsh, Clint Bruce, Marcus Mellon Luttrell, Roger Staubach, General Botel, Bob Hastings. So a lot of guys you know, and about half of them are going to be there.
Oh, man, that'd be a great opportunity. And the Frontiers of Flight, if you've never been there, that's a fun place to go.
That is a very, very fun place to go.
Yeah.
I always enjoy. I love it when events are held there. So one of the things I was going to mention, we're going to go back to the Semper Fi Fund. Sounds like a Marine fund. It's one of the finest military and veteran-based charities in America, but it is not limited to Marines. And it is designed to do scholarships for the families of our military and of our veterans.
Yeah, they do a broad array of services. We'll have 5 or 6 of their service members there. They'll get to share how that has impacted their lives. And, we're going to try to raise as much money and awareness for Semper Fi and the Americas Fund as we can.
Outstanding.
Oh, man, I think that's important. So if I say I can't go because we're going to another event up in Denton, but if I wanted to contribute to the American Futures series, do I go online? Is there a donate button?
No, we'd rather you went straight to Semper Fi.
Okay.
You go to Semper Fi Fund, you'll be clearly able to see that it's Joe Dunford's organization. And you can go before the event. You can donate. When you're there, there'll be a QR code, all kinds of. They'll make it easy for people to donate if they like. If you have extra donations, I'm going to make a little donation, and we'll present that check. And we hope, and we're going to sell these portraits. So these portraits of Maggie, all signed by General Dunford, and the rest will be available for purchase.
Oh, how fantastic! That would be a wonderful memento to have. Wonderful thing to be able to put in your bear cave. Now, yeah. What a great deal.
Both Petraeus and Dunford and Votel and all that. We're passing those things around and getting them signed.
Wow, that's outstanding.
David, I'm curious though. How did you get started doing this? What started you?
Yeah, so I am an Army brat. My dad did a little over 3 tours in Nam, and very heavily decorated combat veteran. Anyway, he came back after that. Didn't come back well, I'll be honest. I haven't talked to him since I was 18 years old. And my brother and I are the only two in our lineage in the Hamilton family back to Alexander who didn't serve. And so we think it's important that the 93% who didn't serve do what they can to support the 7% who have. And so it's just our little way of giving back. If we can raise money and awareness for worthy causes like this one, we do. And we built this thing because we wanted to be able to connect these charities with business leaders, people who have the wherewithal to give. So we've had a series of events on U.S. global competitive national security, which is a passion of mine. Just kind of combine the two of those. And but I have a great affection and affinity for the military and for the service and the sacrifice of both the veterans and their families, and think that if we really believe that we care about our veterans, then we ought to do something about it.
I think it goes deeper than that, because if young people today don't see a positive response, if they see the continued harassment that we got when we came home from Vietnam, they're not going to want to join. They're not going to want to be a part of it. And one of my big things is, young people, this is a great place to get started in life. This is a great place to get yourself going and get a career and start developing skills, relationships, and after the military, it's almost more important to be involved. So we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. We're talking with David Hamilton, the American Future Series. He's got a great event coming up. Chuck, we're going to be talking more about that and how you can get involved. So this is Chuck Wright and Jim Blythe, and we are the Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. We're live on Facebook, so don't say anything your mother wouldn't want to hear,
Although you do have a little bit more latitude than when we're going out on the radio. So we're kind of doing both. We'll continue to do both. But while they're taking a break to pay for the show, we're going to continue to talk with our Facebook audience. And one of the things I'd like you to do is to run down, when we come back from the segment, let's talk about General Dunford's record for those that don't know him. Yeah, we're playing around with the equipment. We're trying to get stuff working a little bit better. What? There we go. What? we got this producer who's just going crazy in here.
I was going crazy along. Yeah.
And we follow Pat Wheeler's golf show, and as I like to say, it's a short putt for some of us, not a long drive to reach that point of mental illness. So pretty common in the military community. We are wired a little bit differently.
You got to be a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's so important and so great at what you do. I was with, matter of fact, Chuck, I think you and I were together at one a couple of years ago when they had the general that was starting the Army Futures Command down in Austin.
We weren't together, but yeah, you talked about the general who is starting the America's Future.
General Murray, yeah, absolutely. So we've had a bunch of those folks. We do a lot on innovation and putting capabilities in the hands of the warfighter faster. We do a lot of virtual events we could talk about. We've had, we're honoring General Hyten, who's the retiring Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Sir Richard Branson will join us and talk about his space flight at our Space Innovation Summit.
Oh, cool.
that deal. We got the head of SpaceX, the head of Blue Origin, the head of ULA, all of these guys talking about space, innovation, space economy, and not just the commercialization, but also the defense of space.
Well, now, is this a special event that's coming up later on in the year that you're going to have all these speakers, or how does that do?
Yeah, we have a whole series. This is the first in-person one in a couple of years, but we pivoted to virtual and have had a number, probably the largest virtual events of their kind in the world since we started doing that. Sir Richard helped with that, which was helpful to have him come speak, right? And we do things on dual-use technologies. We have some of the top VCs, private equity firms, et cetera, all talking about investing. And we connect small companies, innovative solutions providers with the military and help them get fast-tracked to get those capabilities in the hands of the warfighter. A lot of virtual events. We do things on supply chain resilience and national security. Our overarching theme is U.S. global competitiveness and national security. That's our overarching theme. And we have a number of subtopics under there, and we get quite a few prominent people to participate and share their insights. And we try to be an ecosystem. We try to connect people. That's really what the America's Future Series is about, is trying to connect people so we can do some good.
I think that's so critically important. And being able to be informed, hearing men like General Petraeus, like General Murray, many of the others that you guys have had, I enjoyed that, but I learned so much. I think that's really important. And so by being virtual, you don't have to live in our community. You can get it nationwide.
Absolutely. We're actually international. We have a bunch of NATO leagues.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. Thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, let's continue this conversation. Well, Chuck, for our listeners that are just now tuning in, let's reintroduce David Hamilton with the American Futures Series. He's a good friend of yours, quite a guy. And this deal that he's doing on April the 13th, they're raising money for scholarships. That's always one of my big deals.
And one of the things that I had wanted to say in the last segment, one of the things, you don't have to continue the mission, which is the charge of this show, which is the mantra of many of our veterans in America today, continuing to make a difference. Charlie, Mike, you don't have to be a veteran to be involved. And I think David Hamilton is one of those that epitomizes this. He has a strong family connection to the military, but that's not even a requirement. If you just care about our military, you can get plugged in. Certainly tuning into our show is a great way to do it. But get plugged into some of the organizations we talk about, the America Future Series. I want to make sure that people know that this is not a veteran exclusive event. April 13th, we're going to have, and I'm using the royal we. I'm prone to do that, but David's American Future Series is going to honor Marine General Dunford, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, first Marine to ever hold that billet. He was the commandant before that. He was followed by Commandant Neller, who plays in our golf tournament. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about the golf tournament later, but. And I wanted to say this to David because one of the things that he's done with the American Future Series, and I want him to talk about kind of the history of it. He was talking about his motivation before he went to the break. He and his brother were both Army brats. He has not seen his father since he was 18 years old, and I know how that feels. I lost my father at about that same point in time. I was an Air Force brat. Jim, I know you're third generation Navy.
I'm third generation Navy.
And I light a candle for you every time I go to church. Every time I go to Mass, I light a candle.
Well, it's interesting because when you go back to compare today's culture in the United States, when I was a kid, we had big family get-togethers. My Uncle Jimmy was a B-17 pilot in World War II who spent the last 18 months in a Luftwaffe POW camp because he was shot down. My Uncle John was with the 82nd Airborne. He was at Bastogne.
My Uncle Bill was a radio
He
man.
probably knew Maggie.
Probably did. And my Uncle Bill was a radioman in the Navy in the Pacific. My father was a radioman that taught blind landing in Pearl Harbor. He was also on the battleship Idaho, and he was the radioman who got the message about Pearl Harbor. On my personal website, jimblythe.net, you can go and hear my dad's interview several years ago about how he got the message about Pearl Harbor. My grandfather, who was career Navy, he retired in 1952. He was a lieutenant commander who'd worked his way up through the ranks, and he was in command of a ship when he retired. But during World War II, he was executive officer in refueling ships, and he was at Iwo Jima and Okinawa, and then he was part of the battle group that went into Tokyo Bay and for the signing of the surrender.
Wow.
He was in some of the worst of the kamikaze battles, Battle of Coral Sea. You know, and I remember he would say, well, tell me about World War II. And he said, I really don't want to. Right. But he said, there were many times when it was pretty terrifying.
I can only imagine. So, David, as we bring this back to you, and as we bring this back to somebody with a connection to our military, but who continues the mission, talk a little bit about what your inspiration was for the American Future Series, because this has gone on for a while. I've attended several of these. They're always excellent. Talk a little bit about what your motivation was, and we'll rediscuss what your mission is with this.
Certainly. So about 12 years ago, we started, and we started with support from Ross Perot Sr., T. Boone Pickens, Herb Kelleher, Randall Stevenson of AT&T, and others. They wanted a forum where they could talk about issues impacting U.S. global competitiveness and national security that was completely nonpartisan. We also wanted a forum, a platform, so that we could raise money and awareness for worthy causes that we cared about. And so we started having these events. I affectionately refer to them as rubber chicken dinners, right? And we brought people together and that would talk about important issues, people smarter than us. We would have them talk about the issues of the day. And it's a broad array of things like energy, education, the environment, the economy, but national security is central to that.
All right, tell you what, let's do. We'll come back after this break from all of our partners, and we're going to talk more about national security, but we're going to talk about some of the events you've had in the past as well as events you're about to have, including April 13th. So this is Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright. We're with David Hamilton, America's Future Series. We'll be right back after these words.
Here we go.
Oh, okay. Hey, David.
Sorry, blame me on that. I forgot to tell you we have a longer segment. We have a very short segment, and we should have just done that. Short segment is commercial.
I sent him the show outline. I don't know if you got it this morning. I had several closings yesterday, and yeah, I was a little bit overwhelmed. But
no, that's great. You said that to me. I didn't have it in front of me. I've got my phone to my ear.
So we're back. We're back with our Facebook audience. And continue what you were saying about originally setting this up to discuss national security. And then when we come back to the next long segment, we'll go deep dive into what the American Future Series has done in the past.
Well, absolutely. So our mission is to help America be a stronger, more noble, and more generous country. We believe that the United States needs to remain the strongest military, political, and economic power in the world. Therefore, we have to support our military. And you said this, Chuck, earlier in the show. You said, about culture and how young people view the military. George Washington said that a generation's willingness to support the military is directly related to how well we treated the last generation. So we have to take care of the ones that came before, and we have to have a connection and affinity with them. 80% of those who served in the United States at any point come from a swap between Texas and the Carolinas. So 80% of all those people who ever served in our history live in that region. And
wow.
80% of them had a family member who served. So there's a portion of America that doesn't really have an affinity for the military. And so we want, like you, we want to make sure people understand what the veterans are like, their continued mission, and to give support for them, not only in Texas and to the Carolinas, but across the nation.
Absolutely. And the good news about that, when you look at demographics in America, is people are leaving the Rust Belt, people are leaving the West Coast, and they are coming to Texas. They are coming to Florida. They're coming to the Carolinas because it's just a better place to live.
Well, they're jobs. They're jobs,
Yep.
and that's it.
I think it goes beyond jobs, but you're right. They're not just jobs. And let me say it this way. As the head of the Texas Veterans Chamber, there's opportunity in Florida and in Texas. Because a lot of these people are coming to bring their companies here. So there's an entrepreneurial spirit too. But yeah, you're right. It is driven by jobs and opportunity, and that's important. But that's kind of the mission of our show is to continue to promote. The mission of the American Future Series is to continue to promote that culture. And that's why I like to talk about Charlie Mike and continuing the mission. But as I was mentioning before, it is not limited just to veterans. And that's one of the things, and especially as we get into our next segment, I'd really like you to go in deep on, because you've had some fabulous events in the past. They do a lot of good, but I also want to make it clear this is open to everybody. And we will be in the next 2 weeks really promoting this. I know you've seen me promote it on LinkedIn and in Facebook and places like that. But we will really push it. We'll push it on our sites.
Well, thank you. And we want to return the favor and promote what you guys do, because what you do is amazing. We do have Elon Musk coming up. So you're talking about people who are not in the military. So he'll be honored here in Dallas later in the year. We could talk about some of the people that we've had, but most important, we should talk about the people maybe that are coming up like Elon.
I went by in Austin, and it's right off that new tollway where you can go 85 miles an hour. And guess what I was doing? I saw his new facility, his new Tesla plant in Austin, and it is huge. I was reminded of the Lockheed, was it Lockheed Martin that was out at NES Dallas, and they had this hangar.
We gotta go.
Hang on.
All right.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. Thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, let's continue this conversation.
Well, welcome back. We're talking with David Hamilton, the director of the American Future Series. And Chuck, thank you for bringing him on board. What a great deal.
Absolutely. A super guy. I've known him for a lot of years, although I'm sad to say I do not go back all 12 years to that very first event. But that's what we were talking about is the timeline of the American Future Series. So you said before you started it 12 years ago, David, talk a little bit about some of the events you've had in the past, but then more importantly, some of the guests you've got coming up in the future.
Absolutely. So we started 12 years ago with support from Ross Perot Sr., T. Boone Pickens, Randall Stevenson of AT&T, Herb Kelleher, guys like that. They all wanted a forum, a platform for discussion, a nonpartisan one to talk about U.S. global competitiveness and national security. And like them, we want to make sure that America remains the strongest military, political, and economic power in the world, along with its allies. And so we've just tried to be a forum, sort of an ecosystem, bring people together to talk about issues that make that possible. And we had our first event, benefited Big Brothers Big Sisters. We helped set up the Military Mentors Program, which takes care of kids who've had a family member passed away or killed in the military. And so we've tried to do that sort of thing. We've honored 30 CEOs of Fortune 200 firms that do a lot for our military. The Fred Smiths of FedEx, Marilyn Houston, Lockheed, Joe DePinto of 7-Eleven here locally, and quite an array of that. We just try to encourage people to give back to our military. We do have a number of events coming up. They're both virtual and in person. On July 11th, that is the anniversary of Sir Richard Branson's flight into space, and we have a Space Innovation Summit. And we've asked, we're pretty sure he's going to come join us. We've got a commitment there for him to speak about that space flight and to honor General Hyten, who's retiring, who helped set up the Space Force. And pretty august group there. And then later in the year, we're planning on honoring Elon Musk. The governor will present an award to him. Jerry Jones was the first recipient of that award, and we'll have probably the largest event we've ever had in Dallas-Fort Worth, and talking about Texas and why you should move here and honoring people who did.
Absolutely.
Now, is that going to be an in-person event or strictly a virtual event, or is it going to be a hybrid with both?
It'll be a hybrid, but it'll be mostly in person, probably 1,000+ people up in Frisco at the Omni, but we'll record some of that, just like we're doing with this conversation between Petraeus and Dunford. We'll put that on the internet.
And so for those who are just tuning into the show, you talked about that. Talk about that event and the fireside chat that you're going to do afterwards, the event on April 13th.
Absolutely. So people can register at afseries.com. It's an evening event. I like to call them rubber chicken dinners. Be a chance to connect with friends, et cetera, and enjoy some fellowship, but also learn about some of these charities, an opportunity to give to them, to hear about Joe Dunford, who, of course, is an amazing person. You described his service a little bit. And, he's the epitome of this award. He served with distinction and has continued to dedicate himself to taking care of our veterans and others as a civilian servant leader, and that's the purpose of this entire award.
Well, that is incredible, and there's going to be a lot of really great people at this April 13th event. Can you tell us some of those that will be there? Let us know some of the people that are going to be participating.
Yeah, quite a few CEOs of defense contractors and other companies. You guys probably know Darcy Anderson of Hillwood, who was worked, of course, with Ross Pro Senior, works with Ross Pro Junior. Junior is a recipient of this award as well. I don't think he's going to be able to make it, but we'll have about half of the Magellas recipients there. Quite a few business leaders, government leaders, congressmen, congressmen and women. So it's a pretty heavy group.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So this is going to be a fun night.
Yeah. It is going to be a tremendous night.
I'm looking forward to it.
So, again, we want people to go to the American Futures Series. You said it, AFS. I wrote it down, but...
AF Series, just
AF Series.
AF Series.
Yeah.
And it's a hard name, but it's America's, it's possessive, America's Future Series. And if you Google those three words, it'll come up.
Oh, I did, and I've got some of the information. Could we go back, though, and talk about some of the past deals you did? That I know I was at the one where you had the Army Futures Command, General Murray. That was one of the most amazing discussions because this was so new. Nobody really knew anything about what they were getting ready to do down in Austin. And we've got this major military new command getting started, and nobody knew very much about it. So that was an amazing meeting you had. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of innovation units. This is one of the largest, of course. It's a fifth command of the Army. General Murray, Mike Murray, he stood that up down here in Austin, and they're all about innovation. How do we find solutions providers? How do we get them crammed through this rather difficult process and put capabilities in the hands of the warfighter faster? So we had him. So we do a series of defense innovation summits and roundtables with experts speaking about that. We connect people with money, the fuel for this, with people who have the ideas. We get them with the venture capital groups, so maybe like Lockheed Ventures or Raytheon Ventures or Angels. So we try to put everybody together to solve this problem. We do a whole bunch of those, in person and virtual. We put General Murray with General Sir Mark Carlton Smith, who runs the British Army, on our virtual event. They had a chat about collaboration and innovation. So we try to be a little bit cutting edge. When the Space Force was stood up, we had General Raymond and other people like that. Let people know what's coming, what these things are about, and how they can be involved. And we do as much of that as we can.
That is tremendously important. I just motioned to Chuck, and he went blank. That's live radio for you, folks. Hey, this is incredible. So we want people to go to American Futures Series, take a look. You can donate. You can be a part without going. I think it's important because the money that you give, the money that is going in to this, goes for the Semper Fi Foundation for scholarships, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
they have not just scholarships; they have a broad array of services. But no one's going to donate to us, so you can't donate to America's Future Series. You can go to Semper Fi and donate directly to them. Proceeds, a percentage of the proceeds from the sponsorships and things like that, go to Semper Fi. But if people want to give, we'll have the opportunity there for them to give directly to them. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to take any part of that, and so they can go straight to Semper Fi and donate on their website.
Oh,
And that's something that you don't see very often. And I think it was interesting enough. It was a point that I was going to make, is that by asking people to go direct to Semper Fi Fund, you are really trying to support. You're not looking at this to make a fortune or make a buck off of our veterans. And unfortunately, there is a lot of that. I mean, and there are great organizations out there that are struggling, but then there are organizations that, man, they've got celebrity singers and they're on TV asking for money, and all that's expensive.
yeah, it's tremendous.
There were 28,000 nonprofits registered in Dallas when we started.
Wow.
And I thought, my goodness, we don't need to start another one.
No.
There's 40 to 45,000 organizations dedicated to our veterans, right? So should a veteran need anything with all those organizations? And I've been asked, hey, let's start this nonprofit. Let's start this thing. I go, like the other 32 I know that do that already? No, I'm not going to do that. I'll help these. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to help the best wheels roll faster, right?
Yep.
And so that's what we've done. We raised a little over $7 million for different charities with our volunteers, et cetera. And we
Outstanding.
continue to do that.
But you provide not only those services, raising money for those charities, but the information that you're able to pass out. And now you're going to be doing it virtually with men like Sir Richard Branson, with men like General Petraeus, like men like General Dunsford. All of this information really helps people to understand, because in today's world, there is so much fake news and misalignment, and people are trying to basically misdirect things. And so being able to plug in to something like this is important.
Well, appreciate that. We're rapidly nonpartisan, and we do vet the people that speak as best we can. There is a lot of misinformation. You will hear me bash China quite a bit. I'm what's called a panda basher because of that sort of stuff that they do.
You
and the
panda
Russians.
basher, you.
So we think it's important that people get unfiltered information directly from reliable sources without any partisan bent.
And I think that's one of the things about working in the veteran space that I enjoy so much. I used to be heavily involved in politics. I have moved out of that about 8 years ago at my wife's urging, because I'd come back from a political meeting, and even if it was the people that I aligned with, I'd be angry, I'd be frustrated, I'd be this. She says, you come back from veteran meetings, you are so charged up. You are around your people. And I absolutely love it. Other thing that I was going to say is one of the things that's so important about what you do, and by keeping our veterans and keeping our military in the forefront of people's minds, is now that the global war on terror, it's not over, and I've said this, it's never going to be over. It's going to go on for a long time.
Amen.
But it's off the news, and veterans
Yes.
in the military are falling off the radar, and it's incumbent upon us. It's part of the mission, the Charlie Mike portion of the show, is to keep us in the forefront of Americans' minds.
Well,
So there was a time when this was really in the forefront, and we knew at that time that this would fade, that news cycles change, interests change, et cetera. But the need never changes. The veterans are still there. Their families are still there. They still suffer from their service. And, I call it the body bag syndrome. If there's not body bags coming back, people can lose sight.
Well, David, there's another aspect to this. General Bob Scales was on my program a couple of years ago, and he is a Fox contributor quite a bit. And he said to me, it's the sheepdog effect, Jim. He said, the sheep don't like the sheepdog until the wolf shows up. When the wolf shows up, everybody loves the sheepdog. But when there's no wolf, and right now we don't have a wolf, we got a whole pack of wolves that are tearing at us with cyber security as well as what's going on in the Ukraine.
Are you panda bashing again? Don't
I'm
be
not panda bashing. I'm telling you, this what we are getting attacked from China. We're getting attacked from the Middle East, and we're getting attacked from Russia. It's in the news, but right now we're not involved in the Ukraine battle-wise. We have not committed troops, and there's a difference there.
No, you're absolutely right, and I was kidding. And I love the term panda bashing. You will hear it often from now on from me. All of my best jokes are stolen. I don't invent anything.
So, to your point, Chuck, when the Ukraine crisis happened, it's an area of expertise of mine, and I've given over 40 interviews on this on radio and TV, and that's going to be the thing for a while. And then the question is, what's going to be next? And during all of that, our veterans are still going to be here, still needing support, et cetera, still needing a community being connected. And we just can't let that fade away.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have talked to some veteran friends of mine, and I don't know, and I don't want to go on record as knowing, but there are a very significant number of former special forces who are over there right now trying to bolster them up. And some of the things we've seen happen, I'd be willing to bet $5 that there were some ex-Marines, ex-SEALs, Black Ops guys in the middle of that, because they pushed them back. They've hurt them pretty bad.
Speaking of the University of Texas, one of those guys actually married a girl from the Ukraine and was living over there. He was a former Green Beret with the Army. This happened, and guess what he did? He got locked and loaded, and he's over there having some fun.
Oh, yeah.
So we're supporting that effort pretty heavily, and it's almost always veterans that are doing this, right? We've got a group that's getting 9,000 night vision goggles to the Ukrainians. We're helping them with arms. You guys don't like that, people. You come after me. I don't give a damn.
Yep, absolutely.
Like Zelensky said, I don't need a plane. I need or a trip or transportation. I need ammo. Right.
Right. Well, you need ammo, but they need a whole lot more. And one of the things they're going to desperately need is food. So we are going to be coming back talking about the Simplify Foundation American Future Series and wrapping up in just a minute. This is Jim Blythe with Marine Corps pilot Chuck Wright. We're here bringing it in for you. So thank you for being part of our program. Thank you, and we'll be right back after these words from all of our partners. Thank you.
And we'd like we're still live on Facebook, so plenty of people can hear us. And I couldn't agree more. It's one of the things that I'm going to say, and this is going to be a slight political shot, but we've got a lot of, and I want to pivot off at this point, we've got a lot of weapon systems that have not yet been delivered, that have been approved, but not to the Ukrainians, and I think that's a problem. But what I wanted to say, and Jim, you started on this, it's the humanitarian efforts. If you don't care about the war itself, I understand. But these people, millions of them, have been driven from their homes. They're showing up in countries like Poland, trying to get away from the fighting. These are women and children that are being attacked, and there is a huge, huge need for humanitarian aid. And I think it's incumbent upon us as Americans to step up. We are the most generous nation on the planet. And I'm sorry, I'm trying not to go political, but if we can open the borders there, I think we can send some money. Open the borders to our south, I think we can send some money to the Ukrainians and help them.
Well, let's just imagine this. Let's imagine there was an invasion here in Dallas, and your wife and son had to go down to Mexico to live. They don't have any employment.
Right.
You're no longer working. Well, by the way, the West Texas and East Texas fields that raise corn and wheat and all of the foodstuffs and the livestock, all of these things are cut off from you.
Yep.
Those poor people are going to be starving to death, and many times they're not able to plant their fields right now because there's Russian snipers out there.
Well, and they're actually, I have heard that the Russians are actually destroying some of the fields.
Yeah.
Hey, guys,
Yeah.
just real
And
quick.
the
follow-up
Ukraine is the breadbasket of that region.
Yeah.
For Eastern Europe as well, and they're a source of strategic metals and a whole host of other things we need. So if we're going to be selfish about it, hey, it's in our interest to help them.
Okay.
But on the humanitarian
Chris has something
side-
he wants to throw in here.
Yeah,
right
actually,
quick.
just so you know, because I heard you guys talking about accepting refugees, the United States is accepting 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. That was made available as of time yesterday morning. So we are doing more. We're committing more quote-unquote NATO assets as far as hardware. So, yeah, right now it's also being reported that this invasion, they do want it to scale back, and now they're just solely focusing on Donbass, which was what was this all about anyway. So, because pretty much they won't admit it, but they've been defeated. They're pulling back away from Kiev. So,
This is all good news for the free world.
The only better news would be to see that these people who are in leadership, especially Putin, get to lose their leadership position.
Well, just today, the Kremlin released one of their propaganda photos with these military leaders who've been missing for the last few weeks. All of a sudden, it's one big, giant, happy family at the big table. So,
Yeah, I'm sure that's not photoshopped at all.
Yeah. We got about 20 seconds, fellas.
Okay.
We're going to be back on the air. We're still on the air with Facebook, but what I'd like to do, because this is going to be a fairly short segment, David,
Mhm.
All right, hang with us.
and focus on the upcoming event.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. Thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, let's continue this conversation.
Well, this is Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright, and I'm bringing this program back into the dock. We've got David Hamilton, American Futures Series. Incredible. We want you to go to the American Futures Series to find out about their April 13th event. Go to the Semper Fi Foundation to make donations, which this event is supporting, to pay for scholarships, pay for things to be able to help veterans and their families. This is an important thing. We want you to know more about American Future Series because this is a great outlet for tremendous leaders to speak. I got to hear General Murray, who started the American Futures Command down in Austin. You're going to have Richard Branson. You're going to have the head of Tesla.
Sounds good. David, wrap us up as we finish up the show, talking about the event on April 13th at the Frontiers of Flight Museum.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a mix of some really great things. You're going to hear some conversation about the Ukraine between General Petraeus and General Dunford, other national security issues in this fireside chat they're going to have. There's going to be some fellowship. Chuck, you're going to have to help me lead Hip Hip Hooray, because that's what Ross Perot used to do at the end of each of our things.
Outstanding.
Yeah, really.
So I haven't had a chance to sort of eulogize or honor him since his passing. And so, there's going to be a little bit of emotional stuff. There's going to be some intellectual stuff. There's going to be connectivity, networking, a lot of rather prominent business leaders. Can't name all of them. And current military and retired military. So I hope everyone can come.
Going to be a huge event. Again, go to American Futures Series and take a look. You're going to find out. And then the virtual events you've got coming up, as well as the major hybrid, those are going to be posted. They're posted there, too. They're going to be huge.
Yeah. So we have the head of ULA, which is the partnership between Boeing and Lockheed for space launch, Tory Bruno. He's coming back. We have Bob Smith, who runs Blue Origin for Jeff Bezos. We believe that Glenn Shotwell, who runs SpaceX for Elon Musk, will join us. We have the head of Boeing's satellite company, which is Millennium Space Systems. A whole bunch of people like that talking about the commercialization of defensive space and the national security generally, cyber in space, all sorts of things like that. Some current leaders with Space Force and Space Command. And that's a day and a half virtual event. which is international. We'll have people tuning in from Europe and Israel and Singapore and Australia, et cetera. We typically get a few thousand people for those events, and it's only $25 for the entire 2-day program.
Man, I'm signing up for that one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's gonna be tremendous information, and it isn't fake news. It is from the guys who are the newsmakers. Correct, Chuck?
Absolutely.
Well said.
Well said.
And then
Now,
we don't have a date yet, but Mr. Musk has agreed to come and be honored here in Dallas. Gary Jones is the first recipient of this award for business leadership and innovation.
all right,
And,
we need to kind of wrap this up. So I want to say a quick prayer for our active duty military, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, and our veterans. Dear Lord, we thank you for these and protect them as they serve around the world, keeping us safe. And thank you for continuing the mission with our veterans. Thank you, Lord God, for all you do for us. This we pray. David,
amen.
I want to say thank you for being on board. Thank you for talking about the American Future Series. Thank you for bringing this to our Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's now a global event, without a doubt.
Hook 'em horns.
Yes. Hook 'em horns, and God bless your organization.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to be talking to you more as we go down the road. We want to be helpful in promoting that major event you're talking about that's out there in the future. We'd like to be a part of that as well.
Yeah, the Veterans the Chamber, I mean, there's a lot of business opportunity for our veterans involved in these things, so that would be great.
You bet. All right. Thank you so much for being on board. Now, Chuck, we've got some great things coming up next week. We're going to be incorporating Zoom so people can see our call-in visitors. We're going to be working towards getting more people involved with our program. So we want people to subscribe to our YouTube channel, correct?
Absolutely. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like or follow the Texas Veterans Chamber on LinkedIn and on Facebook. We have the Veteran Impact Show. So all of these are ways that you can get plugged in.
You bet. So this is Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright. We'll be back next week for more how to be a part of this. This is the Veterans Impact Show. Thank you for being on board.
Giving